Good evening, Retro and Limmers. I'm here in the plush surroundings of RU Towers, sharing a coffee with the multi-talented video game designer, developer, and musician, Railslave. Do you mind if I call you that, Mr.
Um,
Slave?
yeah, I can think of worse names like Jesus is a tree of life, you know. So Railslave, yeah,
Oh, we're
Bill
going to have
Murray.
to ask you about that a little bit later on.
Right, I'm like the artist formerly known as. So I'm still trying to find a new name.
The artist formerly known as Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I lie. I'm not in the studio. We're in our respective places of residence, thanks to the magic of Google Hangouts. And the coffee is actually chilled tap water. But we can always imagine, can't we?
Yeah. I'm live in the
So,
job centre. I'm on one of those phones in the job centre in the little cubicle thing.
okay, so I should introduce my guest more formally. Railslave, aka the artist formerly known as Jesus, is the creator of a new indie game, NPPD Rush, The Milk of Ultraviolet, which is now available on Desura, and the links are available in the description of this video.
Yeah.
And today, we're going to find out a bit more about the game's development and video game design in general, hopefully, particularly projects that Mr. Slave, if I may call you that, has on the horizon. Does that sound good to you, sir?
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Yeah, I'm definitely
Fantastic.
a slave of something. That's for sure.
You're a slave to the video game industry.
Yep. Yeah. A bit more about that a bit later on. I think.
Yes, we're going to have to talk about collecting, aren't we? Right, so I think we should kick off straight away with the game, which is, as I said, out now, NPPD Rush, The Milk of Ultraviolet. What does NPPD stand for? Is there a story behind that?
All right, I'm really glad you asked that actually, because no one's actually questioned that at all. But it's actually NPPD stands for Nauseous Pines Police Department, which isn't sort of amazing or anything, but the Nauseous Pines is actually the city which the game's based in. It's sort of like this mini universe that I made. So that's what that stands for. And it's all based off a song that I wrote. This way it gets a bit abstract now, because as you've known me a couple of years now, and I used to walk the dogs at the mountain and so on. And I wrote this song up there, and I really like the lyrics, and part of the lyrics is nauseous pines. I really like the two words together, and I thought, well, in America you've got certain towns called like cedar pines or whatever the hell we call them, you know, and I just thought, oh, that's quite strange, and the game makes me feel sick. So basically, and it's gone on to make a few people feel quite sick actually. So
yes, the two fit perfectly well, don't they? Because originally the name of the game was going to be The Milk of Ultraviolet, wasn't it? But then it was the idea of naming it NPPD Rush a bit of a later idea.
Yeah, because Milk of Ultraviolet was actually from the same song as well.
All right.
So I mean, I know Dave Webster done a little mini kind of review of it, and he said it was quite a meta kind of game, and I guess he hit the nail on the head. But they're all from the same song, which is basically about. This gets really weird now. So two twins in the womb, in the amniotic lens. That's what the song's called. So basically, I cancelled this game because it was just, you know, I just didn't have the skills, and I know a nice young man by the name of Dan Fairmond. He'd done a lot of work for me, and I basically just abandoned the whole thing and didn't speak to him for years and that, whatever. But as I was making this again, I started to realise I was making the same game, you know, and I really thought, well, you know, I should combine them. But I mean, the reboot of it was just going to be this bike going around, and this police bike. This is what really sparked me off, this idea of a bike going up flights of stairs. That's, you know, that really excited me. The fact, you know, scrambling upstairs and blowing stuff up, which has nothing to do with the game, but that's what was going on in my head. So the police things that have come into it.
Now you mention it, that is a fairly interesting concept, because in those police chase films on the motorbikes, there's always a scene where they climb upstairs and they say, we're not going to make it, we're not going to make it, and then they make it, but the cops don't. They crash into it because they're so incompetent.
Yeah.
Bikes can't climb stairs, but only if you're a cop.
Yeah, it's sort of like the ultimate cool 80s thing, isn't it? You know, like on, I don't know if you remember an old program called Street Hawk. That we had it in South Africa. It was sort of like Night Rider, but it was sort of like the bike version of that. And I'm sure he climbed a few stairs on that high-powered police bike at some point, you know.
I was going to ask you, you mentioned South Africa there.
Yeah.
Did you say that you used to live in South Africa?
Yeah. I was actually born in South Africa, and but I grew up in Barry, in Wales, by Barry Island. That's where I spent a lot of my youth, you know. But yeah, I was born in South Africa. I went back when I was 16 and smoked too much weed, and basically got deported for insanity reasons, I think. Well, put it this way, I had to cut my hair off with a knife basically before I left because of my dreadlocks. It was, you know,
Oh, crikey.
it just
Well,
gets more surreal as it goes. With.
I never would have guessed you were born in South Africa. But
All
there
right.
again, I never would have guessed that Freddie Mercury was born in India. Was it India that he was born?
I don't know, but people have actually said I look like Freddie Mercury at some point. So there's a bit of a segue, like a strange segue.
Oh, the haircut is fairly similar. Actually, I have
Yeah.
a fairly similar haircut to me as well.
All right.
Yes, we could both be Freddie Mercury.
Oh, great. That sounds really comfortable.
we could
Cozy.
form a Queen tribute band with two Freddie Mercurys, a duet.
Yeah, it'd be quite good actually. It'd be quite yeah, quite
Because
dynamic.
because you are a musician yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, this is a bit of a sad story, but my whole life, since I found the sort of like the grunge bands, so to speak, like Smashing Pumpkins and Nirvana and that, my whole life I just basically wanted to get somewhere with music, and I used to busk in Southend and London as well, and basically I got to a certain age where the dream was over, and that was really hard to accept, and sort of the last year or so, I've with games. This is the thing with games with me. It's not just about the games. It's a vehicle for loads of things: music, art. It's become so much more about art and music and so on. So you know, that's a lot of people. They'll play NPPD Rush and they'll look at the gameplay and stuff. But to be honest, not many people have commented on the music and the art and stuff. You know, but I mean, it's a bit rough, but there's a lot of work gone in there, you know, as you yourself might know.
Hey,
It's about the art, yeah.
yeah, because a video game isn't just about the gameplay, I find. Well, of course it is. There's those people
Yeah.
who say the gameplay makes a video game, but it's not just that, because you've got. I remember being at Play Expo at the end of last year and watching the From Bedrooms to Billions preview film that they had showing there.
Yeah, I was watching
And
that. I was watching that on your channel the other day.
oh right, the panel. Yes, I filmed the Q&A panel with the Caulfields, and also we did a live stream with them. You might be able to look that up on Retro on Them Live, people out there in
Yeah.
podcast land. But they showed a segment from the film
I
about.
was going to say a lot of those musicians you had on the live panel, they definitely got that studio tan, and they sort of they glazed over with some kind of insanity, didn't they?
Oh,
Just
I wouldn't let them hear you saying that.
that's okay.
They
I
won't.
aim to be a bit.
They won't invite you onto the film now because you've said that.
Yeah. Oh, what the studio tan? I actually got that from a Frank Zappa album. I just think it's a great sounding word. Anyway, sorry.
No, yes, that's a fantastic phrase, isn't it? But I was at Play Expo and they showed a snippet from the film of a game called Deus Ex Machina or something like that from the 80s, and it was a piece of art where basically the game was about a person living his life, and there were 3 or 4 levels, one as a child, one as an adult, and one as an old person.
Oh.
And I've not looked into the game any further, but the
Sounds
concept, yes, this idea, and it also reminded me a little bit of the old PlayStation advertisement from Cradle to Grave. Do you remember that one?
No, I actually missed a lot of the PlayStation because I'd moved back to South Africa, and basically I was like the new kid in town. I had my Mega Drive, and like I totally missed the boat. You know, I thought I was really big with a Mega Drive, and half the games I nicked from Blockbuster, Ritz at the time. But you know, I was so wrapped up with that, I basically missed the whole PlayStation generation.
Really?
I was trying to impress everyone with my Mega Drive, like, because they didn't have it until a bit later on, you know, because of the problems.
Right.
Yeah, sorry.
So, what was the game scene like in South Africa? You say they were a little bit behind.
A little bit, yeah.
So,
Or maybe I just perceived that because before I went there, I don't know if I'm just at myself or something, but I just went over, you know, I nicked a load of games from Ritz, like Virtua Racing, the massive cartridge, and Soleil as well, which is called
Oh, right.
Crusader Sensi in America. and I just turned up there, and I basically just went around to people's houses and got stoned and put my Mega Drive on, and just sat there and completed games while everyone else was having a party.
Sounds like a fantastic existence. I have to move to South Africa sometime.
Yeah, but perhaps they did have the PlayStation. I just didn't notice because I just convinced myself that they didn't.
No, when I say...
I do remember Crash Bandicoot somewhere.
Right.
It was sort of like the PC days. I was going from like the Mega Drive to the PC with Doom and so on. I came back to the PlayStation a bit later on in life, but Quake and Doom and stuff just blew my mind completely. So that was quite a big thing in South Africa. Was the PC scene was really big.
Right. So what were the kinds of prices for the PCs there? Because you hear these stories about, without wanting to go into the old cliche of the Indian scammers, what sort of PC gaming scene would there have been in South Africa around that time?
Well, this is the thing, because of well, I hate to sound like a total degenerate, because of all the drug use, I wouldn't actually know. I just used to turn up at people's houses and see Duke Nukem for the first time, and their what's those bombs called? The trip mines, but I just remember a lot of my brother's friends, they were playing Agony, that I know Dave Webster actually referenced that when he done his little review of my game. The control scheme on that, and just like the FPS thing, I suppose it was the same everywhere really. But I don't really see a lot of consoles around people's houses, so I assume they would probably be a bit expensive, consoles, and computers are a bit more available.
Yeah. Well, I do apologise for taking us a little bit off subject with South Africa there, and I didn't mean to offend any South Africans watching by saying they're a little bit behind, because we in Wigan...
Oh, no, that was me, that was it's terrible, man.
No, sorry, I think it was me that reinforced it,
okay,
which is bad interviewing technique, but...
That's all right.
But, yes, I do apologise to any South Africans listening, because in Wigan, we're about 20 years behind, so there.
All right. Yeah, I sort of feel the same thing about Wales, to be honest. But I know, I'm terrible. But put it this way, when I actually came back from South Africa, it's like I'd taken a lot of sort of mind-altering drugs, but it was like I stepped into the future, because there were no more tie-dye T-shirts and camper vans, and it was just basically like, it freaked me out a bit. It was like being in the Matrix or something. So it just shows you what a jump it was in 1998 from South Africa to Essex,
Right.
So it was a little bit behind.
Do you know about Dave Perry? Do you know who he is?
Yeah, I do know Dave Perry. I remember him from Games Master, and wasn't he was in one of the magazines as well, wasn't he, Dave Perry?
Yes, he was a marketing manager apparently, according to one episode of Games Master. I'm not saying which, but. He, for a while, lived in one of those Volkswagen camper vans. He travelled the country.
Oh, brilliant! That's a bit of a dream of mine, that is.
Yeah,
actually,
because
isn't he like a tattoo artist now or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, this has come up on one of the previous live streams, and I can't remember where it is. Somewhere in Devon. I think they said it was in Devon.
It always comes back to him, doesn't it? On all the retro and things.
Yeah. Sorry. Just got him on the mind, that's it.
Yeah, because there was a load of heroes in those days from the magazines, and he was one, and Julian Rignall was another one. They were like these people to look up to, and they were the mullets and stuff. And so I really I looked up to him, and I really, I thought, oh, he's so cool,
So you never remembered people like Tim Boone with the big suits and the shaved hair?
No.
You only remember the ones that were cool.
Yeah, with the bandanas and the mullets and stuff. It was,
Mean Machines, yes.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. It was really cool, that magazine, the little cartoons they had as well, with the reviewers, and it was just a really good magazine. Yeah, it's funny, really. I mean, when people say about Guru Larry and so on, but this is when I was in South Africa, I missed the whole generation of that, the later half of Games Master and these other shows, so I don't actually, he seems like a nice guy, but I don't even know who he is, to be honest.
Does anybody really know anybody on television? Because it's always a false front that they put on.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yes, this idea
Illuminati.
Yeah, no, I guess so.
Sorry, I got to do that for my friend.
I was going to say people are different on television than they are in real life.
Yeah.
But I don't think we should move into that area and more
Yeah.
towards the video game.
Okay. Oh
NPPD
yeah.
Rush, the Milk of Ultraviolet, to send us crashing back to planet Earth. With NPPD Rush, I do like the mouse control system. It's intuitive and
Mm.
tough
Oh,
to
thanks.
master. Tough to master at the same time, but most satisfying is when you destroy an enemy and it explodes in a pool of blood. Even the
Yeah.
cars explode. One of
Yeah.
my
But
favourite
are they
things.
cars though? That's the point, like.
Yes, are they
Or are they
cars? Oh,
Beetles? It's funny actually because I personally can't stand the control scheme. I hate it. I think that I was bullied into it by another developer friend. He's
right.
actually his name's Paul Marable and he's from Flump Studios and he created Pester and Super Killer Hornet on the Xbox and I've been doing a lot of graphics from and music and we've got a new game coming out on the Xbox and on Steam as well, which is a massive thing. This gets really exciting. But he kept going on about this control scheme and joystick support. And to be honest, the whole point of this game was to have something like Thunder Force 2, where you basically have to run into the enemies and retreat and that kind of thing, which is quite intense. I mean, you played the early versions. It was totally different. You had to really like a hit and run gameplay. But he
Mm,
just kept going on about the mouse thing and Hotline Miami was a massive influence on this game as well.
right.
That's where the blood comes from and so on. So
Ah,
I really wanted to turn that up to like 11. I'm not sure if I did, but with the blood tracks on the bike and stuff, and it was just basically meant to be just really violent, like RoboCop, that kind of level of violence. But yeah, he kept going on about the control scheme, and in the end, because I thought it'd be too hard for me to do, but in the end, it took about like 10 minutes.
right.
Yeah.
The original control scheme was keyboard controls, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
And I was privileged enough to play an advanced copy of this
Yeah.
with the keyboard controls. I do have to say that I do prefer the mouse controls. I don't know if that's because I'm a bit of a wuss and I'm terrible. I can't even play Jet Set Willy. I'm so bad.
That's impossible. That game is just. It's one of those games that just couldn't be completed. I don't
Yes.
care what anyone says. It's just those games in those days. You bought them because of the cover art. You bought games because the covers were cool, but the games themselves are just horrendous. But it was good enough, And Jet Set Willy was like that. It was just, you know.
Yeah, funnily enough, I was playing that yesterday on somebody's iPhone. I thought, technology these days. You could probably code your own Spectrum video game on an iPhone now.
Yeah, I
Do
thought
it on
about
the
that.
train on the way to work.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. I mean, as long as the emulator kind of boots up with the executable, trying to sound posh now, but but that's a really good idea. I think instead of making something that looks like it was done on Spectrum, actually make a Spectrum game for an emulator on a phone. I think that should really take off at some point.
Yeah.
Because these machines have been given like a second wind, a new lease of life through emulation, haven't they? So
Yes.
I don't think there's anything wrong with actually selling a bin file or whatever of the game.
Yes. Because the Milk of Ultraviolet originally, in its original incarnation back last year, was destined for the Mega Drive, wasn't it? Or at least it was an idea to try and get it onto the Sega Mega Drive.
Yeah, yeah, that was the original idea, but well, I came under quite a lot of hostility from the Mega Drive community. So I
Seriously.
basically, quite a lot of hostility because I turned up and I didn't have the netiquette or whatever you call it. Like I didn't have the kind of so basically like I pasted a message on all the forums, all these because basically because I was excited to find out that people were still making games for it, and I really wanted to get involved in that, and so I pasted this one message on all these major things, and I didn't realise that all the same people were on the same forums, and they could see I was just
Oh,
but they were quite rude in some ways, and yeah, but I mean I never gave up, and the game's sort of out, I think I can say that.
yes, it is out on PC, isn't it?
Yeah. But what I plan to do, I mean, if I can get the confidence, I suppose it's all about confidence, everything. But if I can, I'm going to start a Kickstarter to try and get this on the Mega Drive. But it's funny enough, it shouldn't look better than the PC. But I'm going to try and make it look better because I think there's parts where it's it's too confusing. You know.
Right. So the dream of getting it onto the retro consoles is still alive to some extent?
Yeah. Don't know
Yes,
if
you got
that's a good thing or just mental illness. I don't know. But
to.
it still comes up every now and then when I'm
No,
up in
I
the
love this
mountains of
idea.
Wales.
No, I love this idea of trying to get a game out for the original consoles because
Yeah.
every so often you see it's a big thing reported on the internet, well, at least in the video game sphere, the retro video game sphere. There's a new game been released for the Mega Drive or a new Spectrum game. But Mega Drive games are a little bit rarer because there's a
More
massive.
exciting. That's more exciting to me than the Xbox One and the PS4, to be honest. You know, just the fact that someone's made a new Amstrad game, you know, which they have and they continue to do. I find that amazing. You know, as a 30, well, wherever old I am, 35-year-old, I think.
Oh, don't worry, I forget how old I am daily.
Yeah, I actually don't know. 35, I think, or 34.
Just have to check my birth certificate. Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, but that's more exciting to me, to be honest. It's yeah, but it makes me sad though, because those years when I was playing Revenge of Shinobi and so on, you know, I could have been learning how to like you'd mentioned when we spoke together, you know, that you learn a bit of basic on the Amstrad. You know, I should have been doing that when I was playing games, to be honest. And I feel like I've lost a lot of time, you know. And
I remember watching an interview with Charlie Brooker. Do you know Charlie Brooker?
he sounds familiar. I'm sure I know when you.
Yes, he has a BBC.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he done the documentary, didn't he? The recent one.
Yes, that's the most recent thing that he's been in.
Mm.
He always says in interviews that he wishes he got into things a little bit earlier because he was 28 when he finally got his head together, as it were, and started focusing on any one thing because he was a little bit scatterbrained with his work.
Mm.
I have done a commentary for RetroUnlim.com, the YouTube channel, and he plays a bit part in a show called The Games Republic with Trevor and Simon. And in that, he plays a character called the Pundit, a hooded character who walks on and introduces the gaming segment. So the kids would have to complete a challenge, but Charlie Brooker would come on beforehand and say, "This is what you've got to do, and these are some tips, etc." So yes, he did all sorts of different things. He also had a website called TV Go Home, but I guess it's never too late. That's the message that I'm putting out to all the creative type people out there. It's never too late to go out there and give it a go.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I started when I was about 34, you know, well, 33, 34, you know, and in the space of 1 year, 1.5 years, I'm pretty happy with what's happened, to be honest. And I'll probably reveal a bit more later on, but basically, like, we've got like, you know, Steam Greenlight. It's no object whatsoever to our publisher whatsoever. So it's pretty amazing what's happened. You know, I mean, I don't know if it'll result in millions of pounds, or whatever, but you know. But I'm not happy because I made a Mega Drive game, so none of this actually means anything to me, to be honest. Or an Amstrad game. I want to make an Amstrad game.
Oh, but this could enable that, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Because you'll have the credentials to go to these companies and say, look, if you're willing to pitch some money into this, we could release this on a small scale. Just like recently, within the last year, 1985 Alternativo, which is a Spanish company, I believe.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
You know where this is going. They released Oh Mummy for the Mega Drive.
That's really impressive.
Yes. So it was the original game was one segment, but also you could select a kind of reboot. It was an updated version of the game, which I thought was amazing.
As well, isn't it? It's really nice looking, and it's boss characters as well. And
yes, there's the flying cat, which I haven't managed to get past. That's all I can get up to. I don't know if there are anymore, but it is a fantastic achievement. They released, well, I don't know the exact number, but it was less than 1,000. It was far less than 1,000, and the demand was so high that they had to release the ROM for free on the internet.
All right, I didn't realise that. All right. Oh,
yes.
Cool. Well, I'm glad that. I'm glad over 1,000 people actually bought the game. Then that's really good for them.
I don't know if it was quite 1,000, but it might have been if you include all the people that downloaded the ROM.
Yeah. Oh, that's a lot more. because that's the age we're living in now. I mean, I was talking to our publisher, Kiss Limited, and they got really impressive credentials. And I was actually reminded them because another game on the label is Amputee.
Right.
Have you heard of that game?
No, I haven't. Is it anything like Amsoft?
No, it's called Amputee. It's so funny, like you really have to see the trailer for it. But the whole aim of the game is that you've come back from a war, and you've got a prosthetic limb, and the whole aim of the game is to make a cup of tea. But yeah, I can hear your keyboard going, but you really have to see the trailer for it. I really laughed, until the last sentence of the trailer was, a bit pathetic. But it's such an amazing thing. But I actually had to But I spoke to our publisher and I actually had to show him on YouTube how many hits this game's got. It's got like 1 million hits per video. And he didn't realise this, so he immediately went off and put it on Steam.
Oh, right.
But basically, the reason he didn't realise this, he said, but that game's had terrible sales, And the reason is because everyone's downloaded it. It's a massive game. I mean, if you look on YouTube, the hits on it are incredible. And it's one of these sort of like PewDiePie sort of games,
Or like Happy Wheels.
I don't know what that is. Yeah.
Oh, don't talk to me about Happy Wheels, and you're probably best living your life without knowing what it is.
Yeah, probably.
There was a game that we used to play in school. Well, I didn't because I was a good pupil and I didn't go playing games when we were supposed to be doing work.
Yeah.
But there was a motorbike style game. I've forgotten what it was called. It was a BMX game, I think, actually. And you drove over these hills and tried not to be destroyed. And it reminds me of that sort of thing. That sort of early Flash game. Which is actually something that I got quite into right at the beginning. Well, 2005. I don't know if you'd count 2005 right at the beginning, because the whole scene is a lot older than that. But yeah, that's when I started getting into that. But we've gone off on a bit of a
Flash
tangent.
game sort of thing.
Yes, because I have to admit I did code a couple of Flash games myself, but they're not very good.
Yeah, I did actually hear about that. No, I'd really like to look at them, actually. I'm really interested to look at them.
Well, one of them is available somewhere on my website, but unfortunately the others have been lost to the annals of time because...
That's the funny thing with these days. I mean, NPPD Rush, it's not... well, I like it, I'm most proud of the story and, like, the whole the premise of it all, but it's no more sophisticated than the average game on Newgrounds, So these days, anything can work as long as it's weird enough and sort of abstract enough, I think.
Yeah.
That's what people want. They want weird things. They don't want normal things anymore because they're sick of Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty Ghosts. They want really abstract, weird stuff.
See, what I like about this current generation of indie games is we've kind of not regressed, but it's a good regression back to the 80s and the bedroom coding, as we were talking about a little bit earlier, that literally anybody can load up the computer, program their own game, and get that onto a platform such as Steam. Yes.
Yes. I was going to say, I mean, at the beginning of NPPD Rush, I don't know if I've since deleted all videos of the Milk of Ultraviolet, all the little dev things that I tried to do, and like the beard campaign as well, the viral campaign, and basically tried to find a load of people with beards and use them in the game and.
Oh yes, I remember this.
Yeah, that was but the whole point of the game was to be the ultimate retro game. That was the whole point of it, and everybody says that, but I was coming from the teletext angle, and then the funny thing is, then I sent the game off to be reviewed by yourself, and then I found out that you were doing the teletext thing as well, and it was quite a funny meeting around teletext, and I was really impressed at the stuff, and.
Right, so it was kind of a chance meeting that you had no idea that I did the teletext art.
Yeah.
When you asked me to do the review of the game, I actually can't remember how I came across you.
I think at the time my net equip wasn't that good, so I just basically pasted the same thing to about 500 people.
Really?
Yeah, that sounds really bad, doesn't it? No, I had seen you before.
I can't remember. You might have posted a couple of comments on my channel.
Yeah.
And then I agreed to help out with the game because it is really interesting, I think, what you've done. And to a certain extent, you've kind of inspired me. Oh, we're going into the waterworks now. This is the dramatics. But you've been a bit of
Uh-huh.
an inspiration to myself as well with what you've
Oh,
done. Yes.
oh, that's nice to hear. Because apparently at my church, the devil's in me now. So,
What?
so I've inspired you, and I've totally destroyed a organized religion. So
Oh no.
I walked out of it all. Yeah. Another
Oh,
story.
have you been getting bad karma from the priests?
Yeah, I literally. Well, it's a bit of there's always a bit of shock value with stuff I say, but I literally haven't left the house for 3 weeks. No, 3 months actually, 3 months. So yeah. Well, the funny thing with that is I started taking YouTube a bit more seriously and started making friends with the retro gaming community, and it just ignited something in me, and all of a sudden nothing else mattered anymore. I was back with the Amstrad and the games and so on, and then I kind of I could feel myself drifting away, and in the end I just had to make a decision, and think, well, maybe this is for later on in life, or something, because I've got to get things out my system quite obviously. So
Do you think there's an element of that in the Milk of Ultraviolet? Because it's been commented that it's a really out there game, and I would agree with them to a certain extent, but if you'd have seen the early builds of the game, in
yeah,
fact, the previous incarnation of the game, it was far crazier. So this, to me, it's been toned down. So I don't understand where they're coming from when they say,
yeah,
"Oh, this is absolutely crazy."
yeah, the German accent. Yeah, well, the funny thing is, I mean, one of the comments, this guy, I'm really glad he done the review, and it's really funny to see his reactions to certain things. But they were saying, oh, he's trying too hard to be weird. But but I'm not trying anything. I'm just excited, and I'm naturally a really artistic person, and I really like it. And it's story driven, basically. It doesn't look like it. It looks like an arcade action game or whatever, or like a Mastertronic game that you'd get with another 4 games that you don't actually want. But it's the whole reason why it's so weird and abstract is because of the story, and the decisions, with the teletext and so on, and
Hmm.
that's why it's so weird. It's nothing to do with trying too hard. It's just the fact of it's that's just what it is. That's the sort of stuff I want to do. I want to do stuff that challenges people intellectually and artistically, and you know.
Yes, you
So I
say
make me
that.
sound like an idiot.
No, no, not at all, not at all.
I mean, the games I'm doing in the future are going to be a lot more weird than that. I'm channeling a lot of weird stuff lately because I've got a lot of issues to sort out. Like I said, I've been in church for 6 years, and I've got a lot of pent up stuff inside me to get out, and so things are going to get quite disturbing. You know.
So,
I
how
hope.
much did this religious aspect impact on the game's development, and how the story plays out, etc.?
Well, as you know, in the beginning, it was sort of like. I mean, it was never going to be like a flat out religious thing because I'm not like that at all. I'm more into like the allegorical, weird, meta kind of thing. The Greek metaphysics. So
Right.
originally, it was meant to be like an allegorically an allegorical take on stuff that I'd read in the Bible, like the Book of Jonah, for instance, which is that really inspires me. I really like that book. So it was always meant to be like another take on that,
Hmm.
but not as obvious. I didn't. It's not that I'm ashamed of anything. But I just think that story can be told in different ways. So basically, the game is started like that. I'm not sure where it comes into the new version of it, to be honest. But
Hmm.
yeah, there's a lot of concepts going on with this game that I think people may not never pick up on. But it's it's all in the fine details. Like you're this thing called a socket. You're basically like a junkie that's been saved. Like yeah, you've been saved and you've been turned into this thing to go into a bike to go and save other people. But the whole point is, I forgot what it means now. Yeah, but the whole point is that there was a prototype at one point, and you want to know what your origins are, and sort of thing, or where you came from, or and you sort of you find out that in the game as well. You find out
Hmm.
who Ultraviolet is. That's a character in the game. So it's like the origin of your whole thing and what's really going on and where this drug comes from and so on. So it's more to do with like drugs,
Right.
I suppose. And
So, how much of an influence was the game Snatcher and Blade Runner? on this game?
Funny thing is, I've got a modded Xbox, an original Xbox, or an OG box, whatever you want to call it now. And my brother actually put all these games on. He put all the games from Barry Island from 1993, and he put all the Mega CD games, and he actually had Snatcher on there. And I know about it. I know the reviews. I know who made it. Well, I don't know who made it, but but I've just never actually sat down and played that game, to be honest. But I'm really glad. I mean, I know Darren Wolfstock actually compared one of the sections to that. Don't know if he's just being nice or whatever. That's okay. But yeah, it did get me quite interested in the game, but I still haven't played it. So it wasn't. So I wouldn't say that was an influence. The section that he's on about was more influenced by Alien Storm, because I wanted and the Shinobi bonus stage as well, because I wanted something to. When you went up the stairs, I wanted something in between the floors, and I thought,
Right.
well, maybe I should have a Shinobi section, with things jumping down the stairs. And if you look in the background, you'll actually see a staircase there. But along the way, I got this idea of this woman's face appearing all the time, just to reinforce the story, to say it's all about this face and who this person is.
So this is the first-person shooter elements we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sort of, yeah. Sort of like the Alien Storm kind of.
Right.
Yeah. It's not an easy game to talk about, as it goes a bit nuts.
Yeah, that bit does remind me a little bit of Snatcher, but I'm guessing it's more the overall story. I have seen videos of Snatcher, and there's definitely, if there's not a visual comparison, then in the kind of overall plot, I would say, yes.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'd never actually played that game, but a lot influences. I actually don't think there might be like subliminal influences, but I didn't actually go out my way to do something that was based on any cyberpunk thing. But Phantasy Star 2 was quite an influence in some ways in the aesthetic. A lot of people might not pick up on that, but for instance, when you're driving along, you've got like you've got the parallax, you've got the gantry on top of you, and that was influenced by the dungeons in Phantasy Star 2, because that was just really nice effect. And
oh, I see, yes.
And sort of the sort of perspective as well, in RPG games, like sometimes in RPG games, in the 16-bit, you'd be going up a mountain from a top-down view, but then you'd see the background in like a sort of
yes,
side-on, and there's a lot of that in this game, and it's been like that since the beginning. I really like that sort of effect where it's a top-down game, but you can see the city from side-on. So that's probably thrown a few people off. But,
yes, I think I was playing Phantasy Star the other week, although I wasn't sure of its name. It's an RPG, isn't it, where you're walking around these towns, and I made the observation that your characters on the map are the same size as skyscrapers.
Yeah.
Is that the game I'm thinking of?
Yeah. It's pretty cool. It doesn't actually look that nice, but it's not easy to pull off that effect, because I really tried to do a complete clone of that game, and it's not easy to get that authentic character the same as the skyscraper. But it works though, doesn't it? For some weird reason.
Oh, of course, yes.
Absolutely works until I do it.
But it's just that sort of nouveau thing that people do, a little bit like the Angry Video Game Nerd, where you're nitpicking games. These sort of these devices that old games used to use.
Yeah, but I think but that's what made the old games for me. I mean, a lot of people, they do gameplay videos about what the game plays like, but not many people talk about the art. Like they say about the graphics are good, but they never really go deeper than that, and the music, and I mean, I could spend hours and hours going on about Sonic the Hedgehog, Green Hills on Act 1, for instance. It's just the art, the whole art of that is incredible, it's next gen to me still. That.
This is a good point, because how many video game designers, as in artists, can you think of? I bet that you could name a handful of video game musicians, but you couldn't name any famous, in air quotes, art developers for video games.
I can't think of any, but no, you're right. The funny thing is, though, actually, I've been looking into this lately, and I've been quite embarrassed to realise that a lot of the artists and musicians in that era were women from from Sega and Japanese sort of things. So a
Right.
lot of these, which a lot of people think, well, that shouldn't be a big issue in this day and age, but to me it is a big issue, and I think it's amazing, to be honest. But everyone sort of seems to think that that's always been the case, but it hasn't. That's quite a revolutionary thing, really, because women in games. It's still a bit of. I mean, there's this girl now. She's making a game called the Depression Quest, and it's this massive issue that a girl's making an indie game. It's like she's had to cancel it a few times on Steam because of all the hate mail. So it is still a massive issue. So it's nice to know that in those days, in the 80s, the late 80s, a lot of the design work on Altered Beast, Shadow Dancer on the Mega Drive, and Fantasy Star series was done by women. So that's really
Really?
cool. Yeah, it's worth looking into, actually. It's well, for 10 minutes.
I see the problem, I think, is not to be racist or anything. Oh, I'm going to be racist now.
Yeah.
But when you see the credits scroll at the end of the game and they're all Japanese names,
Yippo and stuff.
it's very difficult to tell if that's a male or a female name.
But sometimes they use like an alias, like actually I can't say some of them, but Thunder Force 4 was a massive influence to me, but a lot of the aliases are quite sort of erotic. But in Fantasy Star, there's someone called Ippo, that's their tag or whatever, and that was actually, she's got a longer name than that, but she was a really prolific composer and an artist as well. Like Alex Kidd on the Mega Drive was made by a woman and designed by one, and
Right.
and the music and everything is like.
Really? It's not the sort of thing that you think about when you're playing the game. You don't necessarily think, oh, this game was made by a bloke or this game was made by a woman, in the same way that when you watch a television show, you can usually tell, oh, it was a guy or a team of guys that wrote this.
Yeah, but I suppose, but when you look at like the Turner Prize, is it? And just say a woman wins because she's got a bed on there with all the stuff on there. It's like, if you see games as art, I think, like, you do notice stuff, I think, and I don't know, that's my general thing with games now. That they're art, and
yes,
they're rightfully taking their place as art now.
I'd probably go along with that, but it depends how high you want to take it, as in, where do video games stand in relation to high art? But we're not going to go into such a subject on retro.com. That's far too highbrow. I can see all our viewers dropping away right now.
Yeah, no, there's two of us left. We win in a minute. Yeah, but that's the way that's my whole angle on games. I mean, I'm not the best at anything. I'm not the best at music. I'm not the best at this, but I've definitely gone into interpretations, like, sort of skill, I think. And if that even makes sense.
Right.
Just like an expression. This, like I said earlier, this medium is the way to express. So many things can be expressed through this. Through stories, and it's not just this dumb kind of like a shoot 'em up thing or whatever. Because even like a lot of the bullet hell games, which I've really become really obsessed with.
You can kind of tell from some of the shooting parts in the Milk of Ultraviolet, ladies and gentlemen. If you do decide to go and download it, which I do urge you to do, you will find this out. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, but even those games, I mean, a lot of the European American people, when they make a game like that, they think, oh, I'm going to put all the bullets in there and all this, and they miss the fact that if you play the Japanese games, there's always this really weird story behind it all, like the Dodonpachi series, for instance. They've got these dolls or whatever, and they pilot the ships, and I actually don't know what's going on, but I love the fact that I don't know what's going on, because it's like, oh, wow, there's some really deep meaning behind all this madness.
Right. Do you think that was an influence in writing the story for this game? I say writing, in putting together the story for this game.
It might have been, actually, yeah. Just a kind of the surreal, like you're playing a game, but there's something else behind it, and I mean, I was hoping that it would bring people back to play it again, because they might complete it and think, oh, well, that was, like someone said, it was a solid game, which I was really happy with. But to be honest, I'd like it if they thought, well, I really enjoyed that, but I don't think I understood it the first time, and I'd be glad if they didn't understand it, because I hope they come back and read it a bit more carefully, and but then I suppose that goes my skill on English, which isn't the best. It's terrible, my punctuation, but But I just hope there's some kind of like a hidden depth, you know, like a plot in the plot twists. That's what I'd really want to achieve with everything. Hidden depth and, you know.
Yes, some of my favourite films are ones where I've come away from the cinema. I lie, I haven't been to the cinema in 20 years.
Really?
Where I come
Wow.
away from my television.
I was just going to say, it's an emotional experience if you go back. It's really
Right.
stirs up things in you that you didn't know you had. It's like...
Oh, I really must try it, because actually yesterday I went to a meeting to help out for a new cinema website that's hopefully going to be launched soon, but enough about my own projects, or other people's projects.
I think you should promote them more, to be honest. I think, you know...
Okay, I have a great big long list of all the things that I'm doing here, and I'm going to sit here and read them all out
Just
to
make
you.
a video of yourself, basically. No one else is going to make it, are they? Yeah.
But yes, some of my favourite films are... I've finished watching it, and I feel really satisfied, but you don't quite understand everything that's gone on in the film.
Yeah.
Like, a couple of weeks ago, or just before Christmas, I watched Inception, and there were a couple of parts in that film that I don't quite understand, and there are a couple of things that only sunk in the day after. You know,
I really like
pieces
stuff
that
like that.
yeah,
Things that you
pieces
go away, like, and you're walking around, or you're doing your normal sort of job or whatever, and you think back to that film and you try to put things together, like, you know.
Yes, I do that with the retro and then live stream. I'm having a shower.
Put things together.
Yeah, and also I remember a joke that I missed because I was too busy trying to steer the conversation in a certain way.
Yeah, I think YouTube can do that to you sometimes. You sort of like you carry on your conversations when you're off somewhere else. You're like, I'm PMing people in my head.
Oh, these are the problems of being a video game developer.
Yeah, there's actually one film that I watched recently. Life of Pi. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't.
But that's it starts off a bit slow, but that's one of those films you walk away and you think, oh wow, there was a bit more to that than it wasn't just a film. They were trying to make a statement, you know. And I think with NPPD Rush there is a statement. I don't actually know what it is myself, but I'll leave that open to interpretation and, you know, see what mad stuff. Actually, there's a funny thing on the German sort of review of the game. Well, that sounds racist, doesn't it? No, but on the review, they've gone into this. Well, not a massive thing. I've obviously made it a massive thing, but they've gone into this thing about the first-person shooter section. You know, the little point-and-click shooter section. They don't know what that thing is on the left-hand side of the screen, and they've come up with this thing about a fist and hatred for men. It's like nothing to do with that at all. But they're really disturbed by that thing on the left-hand side, where it's basically the character that was on the front screen turned the other way. But I don't know. But it's quite funny to see how the game's become more disturbed to them than it was ever meant to be. You know, it was like, oh wow, these Germans.
I'm gonna have to put a link to that review in the description, which actually brings me on to the next subject. What have the reviews been like for the game? Because it came out on the 1st of January. It's now the 10th as we record this.
Yeah.
And what sort of feedback have you had regarding the Milk of Ultraviolet so far?
It's funny though, isn't it? It's only the 10th. This has only been 10 days, but so much has happened in this 10 days. It's incredible. Not in regards to reviews, nothing's happened, but in other things, hopefully we'll get onto, because I find it quite exciting. But, yeah, we had the German guy. He put up a video, and that's had like 300 hits, which is, you know, that's all right. I mean, and all these conspiracy theories on there. I also had, the funny thing is, which I'm really proud of this actually, but there was actually a competition which was built. There was like a README file with the game and said the first person to complete this will get a prize. And I had an email off another German person. Like, they really like this sort of like amputee sort of women in mech suits sort of thing in Germany. But they must be. But this guy, he sent me an email and he said, "Oh look, I've completed the game and this is the code," which is incidentally a Bible verse. So I thought I'd chuck that in there, you know, just so I didn't go to hell. But yeah, but he gave me the code and everything. I was really shocked that he'd actually taken the time to complete it, because as you know, you start the game, you've literally got 5 minutes to complete the whole game, which Mastertronic actually turned me down from publishing the game because they said, well, there's not enough of it. But this guy, it took him 3 hours to complete the game, you know, which makes it half the length of Call of Duty Ghosts, which I'm really happy with, you know. That's brilliant, that is. And I asked him how he done it, and he gave me this massive page of things, and you know what floor to go on to get this money and go back. And I was really proud that someone had taken that time to be in that world, and he really appreciated the game. He really encouraged me, you know. And so hopefully, I'm planning when I get a bit of cash to send my Mega Drive over to him with the games that inspired the game, with inspired NPPD Rush.
Oh, cool.
So you know, I hope that can happen soon. And we're also going to send him, because I sort of work for Flump Studios, and when that game's released, Super Killer Hornet Resurrection,
right?
Which I've done the art, you know, some of the art for and the music, and so yeah, so that was it. On Desura, I haven't had so much reviews, but I've had a lot of people visit the game, and there's been a lot of interest, you know. But I don't actually know the sales to the game because I don't want to know, and the publishers got that. But I don't really want to know, to be honest. You know?
Ignorance is bliss.
Still early days, really. I don't think it's been like this massive Hotline Miami thing, but you know, that's what it is. And after the game's actually coming out in a bundle at the end of January, and the bundles they sort of sell like 13,000 copies. You know, it'll be like one of 5 games. So I'm hoping out of those 13,000 people, like 10 people do a video review, you know, and those 10 people could get like a load of hits, you know, and so on. So it's early days, to be honest. And
do you plan to capitalise on the success, or not success as the case may be, because you don't know how much it's sold? Let's assume the game is going to be a success. Are you going to build on that success with the killer follow-up app? Okay.
Actually, I was thinking about the Oculus Rift, and thinking how this would be if you had the Rift on your head and you were first-person perspective on a police bike, going through these streets, like, you know, and going up staircases and stuff. So, I don't know. I mean, that would be really hard to pull off, and I'd have to hire people to help me with that. You know, quite obviously. But I'd actually think about that. A friend of mine called Kaiser from the Shmups Forum. He makes his own sort of games and stuff. But he got the runner-up prize in like a Doom modding competition recently, and he introduced me to like the Doom engine. You know, the way it's progressed now, and I started to sort of try to make stuff in there as well. So, don't know. It'd be nice to make it in the Doom engine.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
The Milk of Ultraviolet, the Doom edition.
Yeah, it'd be quite good, you know, as long as I had the textures and so on, and in the Rift thing as well, you know. But, no, it could even be a Disney ride. Yeah.
Would it be such a big step from coding for, say, a small PC game to coding for the Rift, the Oculus Rift?
Yeah, well, this is the mad thing, because I haven't even thought about that, to be honest. But this is much the same as the Mega Drive project. I never thought about it. I just put the idea out and got my ambitions in that direction and put myself at it, you know. So, well, hopefully my next game that I'm making is going to be for the Rift, you know. And it's actually incredible what's happening with that game. Selfie I'm talking about. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to hire people. I'm going to take more of like a gameplay designer position, you know, and hire a programmer. And my brother's going to do the 3D art, like he done the arcade machines that are on my screen at the moment. So I'm going to hire other people to do the technical things, because I think my skills are not really in the programming, and maybe not even in the art, which hurts me to say, but I definitely have like a vision, you know. I'm a bit of a visionary in that way, you know, and not like the cartoons, you know, with the moustaches and that. But yeah, so I'm hoping to do that. I'm waiting to get some funding from the Welsh government, you know, which could not work. But the funny thing is, our publisher, he actually put me through to one of the NVIDIA, the people that work at NVIDIA, and I pitched the idea to them of Selfie, you know, Selfie, and I showed him a little 2D demo, and he sort of seemed, well, he sort of got the avant-garde sort of art thing of it, and he basically said that they could supply me with equipment, NVIDIA. So I was like, you know, I might have messed up that deal though, because I did ask for like 3 of the £700 graphics cards. I got a bit excited and asked for like an NVIDIA Shield as well. And so hopefully he emails back and I can apologise, because my programmer friend, he's ex NVIDIA, and he basically said, well, just ask for everything. He said, because they'll have to pay the tax man otherwise if they don't give stuff away. So I don't know if they'll see it like that. But, yeah,
I'll have to remember that for future use. Get
I shouldn't have
me
said that,
free
really.
stuff.
I shouldn't have said that. But what was I going to say? Yeah, so basically I'm not thinking about what's impossible and what's not impossible. I'm just going to do it. You know, I'm going to make sure I mean, it's only 10 days into January, and I've got a really clear idea of what the game is design-wise. So I've just got to. I mean, I've got the right people around me, but they just won't do anything. So I've just got to motivate them, and with graphics cards and stuff.
So some early promos for Selfie, or the current stage of development, are on your channel currently, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a bit rough and a bit 2D, but yeah, it's going to be a very strange game. And you know, they will think I'm trying a bit too hard with this, but it's, you know, it's very weird. All right, then with Selfie, it's going to be really disturbing. I don't even know if I can explain a lot of it, because it's wrong. Like, but basically you're like a Christian missionary, a woman that's gone to some sort of she's gone to some sort of like an island, you know, somewhere, and well, it's mad because it's going to be like the Oculus Rift. This is, but basically one of the big problems with the Oculus Rift is that it's not very good if you're playing a game where you've got to walk around as well. Like, you can look around with your head, but to have a control pad as well sort of breaks the immersion a bit. But I've solved that problem with the first scene on this game, because as soon as you start the game, the first thing you see is your legs in a bin. So you're basically like, in Selfie, you're stuck in one room, you've got no legs, and you've got all these things around you, like books and a tape player, and I'm just looking at the painting thing I'm trying to do, and there's all these artifacts around you basically, and you've got to work out. You've got 7 days to work out what's happened, and the woman, she's sort of like retreated into like her childhood fantasy of like the boogeyman in the closet, or whatever we call it in Britain. Right. I can't even remember what British people call things anymore after being on YouTube. The Genesis. No, but basically, there's like a closet behind you, and I'm trying to get the sense that there's something behind you all the time when you're playing the game. So you're
Right.
reading all these diary logs, and you're looking for clues on the table and outside the window as well. That's going to be a really ambitious thing, is what's going on outside the window. But basically, when you get the right combination of clues, it's like an early gameplay dynamic, which might not work. You basically you trigger off the shadows that come over you, come over the top of you, sort of thing, and the length of the room. And this is like the Starman that's in your closet, you know, this childhood fantasy. And in the shadow are all these stars and stuff. And but the reality, but this is just a fantasy of the woman. This is her coping strategy for what's really going on, because obviously your legs are in the bin and the window's smashed. It's really horrific scene. So when this person arises from behind you, you take your phone and you take a selfie, you know, which is the big thing, isn't it, these days? You take a selfie of yourself and whatever's behind you, and on day 7 you finally get to see what's behind you.
Right, so that's the culmination of the game, the selfie. So you would see that right at the end.
Yeah.
That would close everything out.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a reason I'm laughing. It's quite funny. But it's basically space. Oh no, I've got big issues with America at the moment. It's basically the American nightmare. That's what's behind you. So you know, it's a bit of but the whole thing with selfie is it's meant to make you look at yourself as well as a person. So hopefully the ending is going to be like quite shocking. And
right. Well, we saw the promo a little bit earlier, and I do have to say it is slightly disturbing, but not in the disturbing way. I wouldn't say the Milk of Ultraviolet is disturbing. It's thought-provoking. But I guess selfie.
The amputees and stuff, and you know.
Yes. Well, it's more fridge horror, isn't it? Do you know what fridge horror is?
Like fridge magnet horror?
Yeah, basically.
No, is it? Well, it looks like a fridge magnet, doesn't it? Like it looks like a bunch of fridge magnets on a screen going around, basically. Tiles.
Fridge horror is this concept that it's really, really scary when you stop to think about it. On the basis of it, it's just a throwaway idea, but when you delve deeper into it and think about it, oh, this person has no legs. Oh, crikey, that's really scary.
Yeah.
It's that sort of idea.
Yes, yeah, that's the sort of thing I want to go for then, fridge horror then. Like something like with selfie, it started off as this sort of an idea, you know, you'd play the game and something would scream and like a jump scare, but I thought, no, I'm deeper than that. So there's no frightening thing in there, but when you walk away from there, it'll be quite unsettling, you know.
I did get that impression from watching the little demo, and yes, it was quite unsettling.
Good. Good, I'm glad.
Yes, it's doing its job. Yes, it's doing its job.
It's all about the flies, isn't it? I mean, well, what's going to happen? I mean, my brother's going to do the 3D work. I hope he's going to do it because he's got a history of changing his mind about stuff. But those flies alone are going to be the highest polygon flies you've ever seen in your life, you know. But the funny thing is, with NVIDIA, they've said to me, oh well, we can supply equipment. But they said further along down the line, if you show us something that's that impressive, we can possibly pull a few strings, you know. So I'm basically it's so stupid of me, but I'm setting to make this look better than Crisis 3. I mean, it's only one room. What could possibly go wrong? You know, one room and clever lighting as well. There's still going to be about the lighting, and that's what the NVIDIA guy sounded quite excited about, the lighting placement. So it's gone a bit mad over here in the last 10 days, basically.
Right. Well, very best of luck with Selfie, and indeed any of the other projects that you have coming up. Are there any that you'd like to mention?
Oh, about other games. I'm working on another game as well, that's pretty disturbing. Like that's my plan for this year. I've realised that in a market where everybody's good, you know, I mean, you'll know yourself. There's always a pixel artist who's like better in there. It's annoying me now. So I'm starting to work with my strengths. I was actually encouraged by a friend of mine on the Shmups forum, Naughty Games. He made Chronoblast on the Xbox Live, and he's my biggest critic. He's sort of like, but he said to me, you know, he's not a massive fan of my stuff or anything, but he said, look, you've got to find out your strengths and that. So it hurt me a bit, and I thought about it, and I realised that this weird sort of stuff is definitely a strength of mine. So yeah, that's what I'm going for. So I mean, the other game I'm making is even worse than that, but it's a 2D thing. It's basically it's a shoot 'em up. It is like a bullet hell thing, which I've got to get out my system because I obviously want to make one of those from all the videos I've put up. But it's got a bit of a story, and yeah, it's probably better for people just to see that and see what they make of that. But yeah.
Okay, so
I'm a bit traumatized by it.
So people can keep up to date with the traumatizing stuff on your channel. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And that's.
So
Would you like to?
Gone down a little bit. Yeah. Mention my channel, should I?
Yes.
All right. It's called Jesus is the Tree of Life. Strangely enough, which is as traumatizing as you want that to be. Yeah, and just basically, I mean, I'm trying to put up sort of gameplay stuff every now and then of other games, but obviously this year is going to be completely about that. So if people want to keep in touch and talk about stuff or give me ideas or whatever, then that's great. It'd be nice to make a few more friends. I obviously need a couple more. Yeah, so I'm on there, and yeah, it's a bit of everything on there lately. Bit of music as well, and like I said, we got a game, Super Killer Hornet Resurrection, which there's a trailer online for that as well, and that's coming out on the Xbox Xbox Live Indie Games and the Ouya as well, and on PC at the end of the month. What else? There's loads of stuff happening lately. There's one of the NG Dev team, make the Neo Geo games.
Yes.
Well, the artist of their last game, he's asked me to do music for something he's doing as well. So
really,
yeah, but that's going to be coming out on the Ouya or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah, sounds like somebody being punched in the gut.
Oh yeah, terrible name. I sort of wished it was called the Ouya. Ouya is a bit more like, fluid.
A bit more Russian.
But yeah, but I really don't like the name of that. Ouya. So. Bit gun ho in there, but his game's coming out on that as well. What's it called? I don't even know what it's called anymore. Flying V, that's what it's called. It's like a bullet hell game as well.
Oh, cool.
I'm really trying to distance myself from those sort of games, to be honest.
There's a guitar called the Flying V.
Yeah. Yeah, I was sort of expecting one of those for Christmas actually. But
oh.
It fell apart a bit.
So, talking about musicians, you managed to rope in a rather high-profile musician for the Milk of Ultraviolet, aside from yourself, of course.
Yep, are you going to say his name or attempt to say it, or am I going to attempt to say it?
I think I'll leave this one to you.
All right, okay. Well, I'll practice this. I have actually... it's Toshikai Sakoda. I really hope I got his last name right. But
Sakoda.
Yeah. Toshikai Sakoda. It was really nice of him to donate a track of his, which I get the impression is a bit of a misunderstood track because it's called Mad. So, but it really fitted like for some weird reason I wanted like a really glitzy sort of Las Vegas-y sound for the game for some reason, like Spring Yard Zone or something, and don't know, but to me this really suits the game. It's kind of got that kind of thing. And the games he's worked on before is a Mushrelesti on the Mega Drive, and Devil Crash as well, which is the pinball game on the PC Engine in the Mega Drive. And he was nice enough to donate that.
Yes.
I'm not sure what his what his English is like, but he definitely said yes. And I did ask him a few times, but
right.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried about that.
So how did you approach him? Did you find his email or what?
It's a funny story to that actually, because I'm a big fan of Thunder Force 4 and Technosoft in general, and basically and they put out a version of Devil Crash on the Mega Drive, and that's one of my collection aspirations, is to collect all of their games for the soundtracks, and I got that game, and I was quite disappointed to find out that they didn't do the music. these people that I love so much, and this other guy done it to Shikai Sakoda, and as nice as the music is, it really disappointed me, because it wasn't Technosoft. It really played hell with my OCD. But then I looked into him, and I found him on YouTube actually, and he's really a really friendly guy. He comments on people's stuff, and he'll like reply to anything you send him, and really nice guy. And I was going through his music actually, and I just asked him, if I could use this for a game that I was making, and he said, yeah. He said, please use it. That was his exact words, please use it.
Wow.
So I thought, oh well, that's good. I'm going to name drop that to hell and back. But I continued to ask him afterwards just to make sure that he knew what the implications were that I was going to sell this game. But hopefully, as soon as I get paid, I'm going to do the rounds and make sure everybody that helped with the game, gets something.
Yes,
gets
because
a sausage roll or something.
A sausage roll, yes. Are you going to invite everybody round for a party?
Yeah, if they want to. But I was going to say, I mean, I need to shout out to a lot of the people that help with the game actually. Like a lot of the YouTubers, who I've followed for the last couple of years, they've always been supportive of me, and that's Darren Walshstock, and he plays a part in there. Time Team 1982, Mick as well, he's a really nice guy. Dave Webster, who's done a review as well, and he's got a really interesting channel, all kinds of stuff on his channel as well, and he definitely knows more than what he lets on. Yourself as well. Who else is on there? There's loads of people on there. Yeah, I can't remember. Oh, and also Soft Attacker as well, who's the police officer in the beginning of the game.
Oh yes.
So hopefully if people want to if they want to look deep enough into the game, they'll find all these other channels and so on, and it'd be nice for them to get a bit of feedback as well, So I hope that works out.
Do these people get a credit at the end of the game? Because I haven't managed to complete it yet. It is quite difficult.
Yeah, there is actually. If you start the game and you press X, there's actually a credit screen.
Oh right.
I don't know if you've noticed. But yeah, if you press X, it goes straight to the credit screen. You don't get to see the ending, obviously, with the amazing music, the Terminator 2, Terminator-esque music at the end. But there is actually the credit screen, and you can see all the profiles with the names as well. The feat of programming for me to actually put the names and the things on the same thing. But yeah, so they're all in there and all accredited and so on. So.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And I'd like to thank you for getting me involved in this project. It's always great to get involved in any project, especially if it involves teletext art.
Yeah, well. To be honest, I'm not just saying this, but the game wouldn't be the same without the teletext, and I don't know how many people will appreciate that. But I definitely do. I think it's really cool, And I was actually thinking of doing selfie in teletext art, but I think I know I'm going to try the NVIDIA thing for some stupid reason. But,
well,
yeah.
It's always on the back burner if you wish to fall back on it.
Yeah, it's definitely Yeah.
Okay, so that might be a great opportunity to wrap up this interview. Thank you very much for chatting to me this afternoon, or this evening, Mr. Railslave.
Yep.
And is there anything else that you'd like to add before we go?
Don't know why I keep saying don't eat the yellow snow, but that's Frank Zappa for you. No, nothing really.
Oh, that's a fantastic piece of advice on which to end.
Just thanks to everyone that's sort of supported and anyone who wants to buy the game as well. There's definitely more to it than meets the eye. If you can say that,
To quote the Transformers, or whoever it was that did the song for that.
There's definitely a lot of depth in there. So say goodbye to the wife she's left me.
Oh.
All right then. Yeah, so hopefully people sort of enjoy it, and and hopefully I can pay a few people if they buy it as well. That would be the right thing to do on my conscience, my Christian conscience.
Okay, well, the very best of luck with all your future endeavours, and indeed with the Milk of Ultraviolet on the sales, yes?
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that because I have a slight vested interest there with the teletext art in the game.
Yep. The link to your advert, to your channel down there.
Oh, I wouldn't dream of doing such
Right down
things.
there, as they say. I've never done that on my videos, actually, believe.
Oh, you've joined the YouTube ranks.
Yeah, the me tube,
Yes,
whatever. That's
remember
more
to
my angle.
remember to rate, comment, and subscribe.
Yep,
Rah, rah,
down
rah.
there.
Yes, but only if you wish to, ladies and gentlemen. And on that point, I'd like to say thank you, Railslave,
Thank you.
and
Thanks,
thank you very
everybody.
much, and thank you very much for watching. Good evening.
Good evening. Goodbye. Thank you.
Some nauseous pies, this noxious bears, a food from the poor.